Welcome everybody to the very first episode of the Amor Muto Talkshow. You are here because you believe people are designed to adapt and you want to feed their talent by hearing stories and learning from the lessons of other resilient people. Today, our first guest, Raksha, somebody I'm very proud to call a friend and somebody I know, who has a very, very interesting story, and the way she's dealing with it is even more amazing. Raksha, thank you for being on the show. I'm going to shake your hand. We're going to hug later. Thank you for coming. I was stalking your Instagram, and I think you guys should follow her because it's amazing what's out there. The pictures are great, but the text, I think, are the real gems. I made a little collection of stuff. So I took a bunch of your posts and cut out the pieces. For the people that don't know you, you wrote a little piece. I was born with a deformed face and jaundice. The doctors wouldn't allow my mother to take me with her. After she had vehemently refused, she picked me up, left the hospital, and carried me home. For the next few weeks, she massaged my face daily and kept me in the sun for hours to treat the yellow color of my skin. Where was this? When was this?
So I was born in Suriname.
Okay.
And
that's South America, right?
Yeah. It's the smallest country in South America. Only 500,000 people are living there.
Okay.
My...
What year were you born? You don't remember?
1985.
1985?
Yes. And when I was 3, we moved to the Netherlands.
Okay.
So I lived for 3 years in Suriname, and it wasn't safe for us because my grandpa was murdered. It's called the December murders.
Oh wow! It just passed in the courts.
In 1982, yes, exactly, it passed. Yeah.
So your grandfather was assassinated or murdered?
Yes, with 14 other people around that time.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why you left the country?
Yeah, because it wasn't safe for us anymore. Like we had a pretty good life. We had houses and cars there and dogs, but then like the military people, they would drug or poison our dogs basically.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were tapper phones.
Wow.
And they would follow us around. So my mom was there with 2 little children. She thought, we have to move, and so that's why we came to the Netherlands.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then you continue.
Mm-hmm.
As a child, I grew up surrounded by women. The only men I knew were either violent, addicts, or didn't stick around for long. I remember being stalked by my mom's ex-boyfriend, witnessing my neighbor beat up his wife, my cousin touching me between my legs when we were playing, my uncle sending me inappropriate text messages, and my mom's neck covered in bruises. This is a complete different dimension from what you just mentioned, being a political, like your grandfather was in the government.
He was a politician and a lawyer, yeah.
In Suriname?
Yes. So highly respectable.
Wow.
Basically, yeah.
And then you move to Netherlands, then this piece comes out.
Yes. So I didn't grow up with a dad, first of all.
Okay.
But my mom used to have boyfriends sometimes coming to the house, but they were pretty... they weren't that great. Let me say it like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Minor understatement.
Yeah, minor understatement. Yes.
Wow. And this you grew up surrounded by women. What does that mean?
So my mom, my sister, basically my aunts. Those were the family. We didn't have a big family, just those people surrounding me all the time. And then I didn't really have a relationship with men, or didn't know how to deal with men because they were never in my life. Not to that extent. Not when I was a little kid. So even I didn't know what it was to have a dad around.
No, they were either violent, addicts, or didn't stick around for long.
Yeah.
These were the type of men that you saw.
I remember one time that one of my mom's boyfriends, she broke up with him, and he had this dark red, like Bordeaux red Mercedes. I always recognized it, and I always knew he was at the house when he was there in the parking lot. So she broke up with him, but he would, from my room, I could see the parking lot. So sometimes I would see his red Mercedes just standing there. And then in the morning, I would walk to the school. It was a 10-minute walk for myself. And I would get out of the house, walk to school, and I could see the red Mercedes. And then he just started following me. And then he opened the window, and then he would start saying, I don't remember what he said, but he would just follow me all the way to school, and I would just be freaked out and ignore him.
Wow.
I was just a little girl. So things like that, and sometimes my mom had bruises in her neck, I mean. So I didn't have a high opinion of men, and I didn't trust them. Like, no way. I didn't trust men at all.
Wow. Wow, that's intense. And were you afraid?
I don't think I was afraid. I just didn't want to be around them. I thought my mom always used to ask me when I was little what I wanted to be when I was all fully grown, and I would always say I want to be a doctor, and then I in my spare time I'm gonna help children in need. And then and she would say, "Don't you want to get like married and have kids and stuff like that?" And I was like, "Well, I want to have my own house, my own car, I want to make my own money, and I want to have a baby." And she would say, "Don't you want to have a husband?" I would say, "Well, maybe I would like maybe a boyfriend, and he can just like come and live with us if he wants to." But it wasn't. I never had this picture of me being married or a man involved, basically, or just have my own life with my kid, and that was it.
No. So it shifts. It says, I attempted suicide when I was 21 years old. I know what depression feels like, smells like, and tastes like. But I overcame it, and if I can, anyone can. Let's help each other out. What happened? You were 21, committed suicide.
Yeah, so I, at that time, was working at this restaurant, like 6-7 days a week, and I had a boyfriend at the time, but we had a very physical. He was very I just say that abusive.
Oh, wow.
Physically, yes. So I would work 6-7 days a week to pay for my rent, and I hardly had money to pay for anything. So I always felt fortunate that I was working at a restaurant, even if it was as a waitress, because I knew I could eat.
Wow.
They would give you lunch and stuff like that. I didn't have to buy any groceries because I didn't have money to buy groceries. I had 25 euros or guilders at the time, probably, for the whole month to buy groceries. Yeah. So I thought, at least I can eat there. I would work my face off, basically, and then I would come home. My boyfriend would be there. We didn't live together, but he was always there. And he would pick a fight. And then we would, like, fight, and the neighbors would call the police. And then he would go, but it was exhausting. Imagine doing this every day. Every day.
I don't want to imagine doing it one day.
No, you don't. And also, I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't even know. How do you talk about these things? I don't know. Like, I was all restrained, and I couldn't talk about these things. Nothing about the past. I never talked about it before that. So I was just, I remember that I thought, I'm exhausted. I'm like thoroughly exhausted. So one afternoon, I was too exhausted to get out of bed. and to get out of the house. And I already had suicidal thoughts before that, so it was just a matter of time, basically. And I got up in that morning, and that was the day. I decided this is the day. So I had pills, I had alcohol, and then I just took them together, and then I went to sleep. Yeah. But it did feel, I felt very calm because I knew I could go to sleep. That was it. So there's this calm coming over you instead of this. It's not a desperation. It's just I made a decision. This is it.
I can feel my whole throat drying up, man. It's intense. That's super intense. Wow. And then you say, I was never afraid of death. I was afraid of life. Hell is other people, according to Sartre, because we only feel shame, guilt, and inadequacy in the presence of someone else's gaze. I believed I was worthless, a waste of life to others. And then that looking glass became my world. So, isn't hell actually ourselves? Because we allow our self-image to be a product of how we believe others perceive us? Was this before your suicide attempt, or?
Yes. Many. I've always had this. I always had this low self-esteem, basically. It was even for years. It has taken me over 25 years, I guess, to look in a mirror and to be actually satisfied with myself. Basically, I couldn't look in the mirror. I would go to the restroom if I was somewhere. I go to the restroom, and there's always a mirror when you wash your hands. So I would just go wash my hands, be afraid to look in the mirror because I always felt like I was so ugly. I was just too scared that it was gonna ruin the rest of my day, basically, just looking in the mirror, because I didn't like what I saw in the mirror, so I just wouldn't look in it.
Just your look.
Yeah. Well, it was how I looked at myself, not just externally, but also how I felt about myself. I didn't like myself. To use the word disgust is not an exaggeration. I disgusted myself. So when I looked into the mirror, that would just be proof, basically. Yeah. So I would just.
Why were you so disgusted by yourself?
Because I didn't have any self-worth. I didn't think I could do anything. My mom never paid attention to me. So at the age of 8, I decided to do things by myself. And I thought, nobody's ever going to pay attention to me anyway, so it doesn't really matter anymore. So I stopped caring about getting someone's attention and love. So I didn't think I was worth somebody else's attention and love because I wasn't getting it anyway. So even looking into the reflection of, I always was amazed by, how some women or men look into the reflection of a window and just do their hair, just a little bit like this, a little bit like that. I was so amazed because I could never do that. And I thought, wow, how do people do that? How do they do that? How do they look at their reflection in a window or a mirror and just be like, oh yeah. I just didn't, yeah.
Wow. Wow. And then this text talks about that all these things you perceive come from another person's gaze. Can you explain? Because it says, we can only feel shame, guilt, and inadequacy in the presence of someone else's gaze.
Yeah, because if we're alone, if you're alone in your room and nobody's looking at you, what do you do? Like some people start dancing, put on music, start dancing as if there's nobody around, so you can do whatever you want. But sometimes we tend to, I don't know, hide certain things we think are weird maybe to other people. We don't do them because other people are looking and we feel like other people are judging. So I guess I always felt weird. So I didn't want to. I thought that anything I say or anything I do is going to come across as weird. So people are going to think I'm weird. So better not speak, better not do anything, better not socialize with people, just hide away. Because otherwise I'm just digging this hole for myself basically. So I didn't do anything. So I guess that the moment you start telling yourself, fuck what other people think, I don't give a shit. It's just, who are they? Basically, there's no they. And then you open up this whole world for yourself. Yeah.
Beautiful. It says here you were 26, working 2 jobs to pay for university, but opportunities don't care about empty wallets. I bought an outfit for 20 euros, booked the shabbiest hotel, and 2 weeks later, I took the cheapest flight to London. What's going on here?
So I was at university, yeah. And I don't know why I had enrolled in this modeling program. It was a contest online. I never do those kind of things, but I thought, why not send in a photo? So I sent in this photo, never didn't hear anything about it. And it said that you could win a photo shoot. And they were gonna make a selection of 10 women. So months or weeks later, I saw that they picked 10 ladies, and none of them was me. So I was like, okay, fine. But I hadn't read the small print, which basically said that they were also going to select 10 girls to for a contest, and they were gonna pick one to be the new face of Tia Maria, the brand, for that year. So I got this email from a woman in the organization, and she said, "You've been selected." Me, with my low self-esteem, didn't believe it. So I ignored the whole email. I was like, what? It's not possible. This is some kind of scam. So I didn't read it. And then she kept emailing me. And I was like, what? This is not possible. How could you pick me? And a week before, I guess, or 2 weeks before, I started believing it because she was like stalking me to come to London and to participate in a contest with 9 other girls. So I went on my own to London, no money at all, just exactly picked out the shabbiest hotel. The floor was like this, it was horrible. And then that evening I dressed up and I went to this big tower, skyscraper, and I came in and there were so many people, like I honestly felt like I didn't fit in. Oh, beautiful people. And probably all highly educated, very sophisticated. And I thought, what the hell am I doing here? Then I started talking to these girls, these other models there, and they were so nice. And I honestly thought I was just out with some girlfriends. So I didn't care about I forgot about the whole contest. I didn't care about it anymore. I was just like, this is cool. This is who I am as well. And then we got on stage, and suddenly I heard my name. I was like, no, it's not possible. So apparently I had won.
No.
And all these photographers were like flashing, and I was sitting there with a ball of Tia Maria and flowers, and I thought, what is going on? This is crazy. Which was such a boost to my confidence. Those kind of things, which I'm glad I did. But like getting an 8 out of 10 at university, this modeling contest, this...
And what made you bold enough from going to be alone in your room, don't be weird, don't communicate, to sign up for a contest?
What if?
A what if?
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah. What if I could actually do that? what if, and not even believing 100% fully that I could do that, but what if I could do it? What if I could just go there? What if I could, it's the same I still have right now, what if I could write my own show? What if I could, it's the moment I feel fear, it's even like, man, I was scared of heights. And then I started traveling, and there was this one point I was in Brazil, and I was on this boat, and you could jump off, and everybody started, and I was like, shit, I'm so scared right now. But it's the moment you feel fear coming up, and at that point you say, fuck it, I'm just gonna go. And that point you already know that you've hit the ball, basically, that you've like conquered something. You haven't even done it yet, but the moment you say, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it, and then you just fly. That's, yeah.
What would you say was the hardest thing for you in all of this? What change of it was the one that took you the most out of you?
There were a lot of hard things, but I was 22, and at the time I didn't have a college degree or like a high school degree. I never finished high school.
Okay.
And I was depressed. I was a sex addict at the same time, and I was in debt. I had a lot of bills to pay, but I couldn't really pay for them. And the only thing that made me feel normal, because I never felt normal, I always felt like I was different or left out, like an outcast. And the only thing that made me feel normal was that I had a job. It was just being a waitress. It wasn't anything fancy or anything, because, well, I didn't have a degree or whatever, so it was I was a waitress 6-7 days a week in a restaurant, but that made me feel so normal to be around people. And then I lost my job, and that doesn't even sound too bad for a lot of people, because you can just say, well, why don't you get just a waitress job to get another one? But it happened to be that 2 months before I had tried to commit suicide. So at that point, when there's a bump in the road, it isn't like a rock, it's like a hill. So it felt exactly like that. So afterwards, I had to move back into my mom's house, and everything just went to like the lowest point in my life, where I thought I have nothing anymore. What do I have? Nothing. And I remember one night my mom was out. I was alone at home, and I trashed her house looking for alcohol, because I just didn't want to think about. I was depressed. I was like at the bottom. I didn't want to think about anything. So I trashed her house looking for a bottle of wine or alcohol or whatever. And I found this big bottle of red wine. And I just drank it, just started drinking it, I was spilling it over her carpet, knowing she'd get mad at me, but whatever, I just drank it. And then being drunk, I opened the front door and I left the house, leaving the front door open, not caring about anything. Wow. And exactly that is what I thought. I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I don't care what happens now. It was winter, midwinter. I didn't even put my coat on. And I just walked and walked and walked. And I lived in, it was in Leiderdorp, Leiden at that time. I just walked and walked, and I thought, I don't care what happens. Just walking through red lights. Just any car could have hit me. Nothing happened.
Wow.
Yeah. That was a hard one. Yeah.
So the story started with you trying to commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only thing that still made you feel normal was having that job.
Yes.
As a waitress. And then that got taken away from you. So you felt empty-handed. And it sounds like you drank that bottle of wine and went out looking for the end again, but didn't find it?
I guess. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was so hard about what you just described, losing that job, or like that last thing that made you feel normal? What was it?
I guess the feeling I had nothing to hang on to anymore. Or like you find when you're depressed, or you try and find those happy moments, even if they're like 1 second or 2 seconds. It doesn't matter. You try to find the happy moments in the days. Because the rest of the day is shit anyway. So the happy moments are bliss, absolute bliss. And then when you don't have those happy moments anymore, it's just empty. There's just nothing. So it feels like falling and falling and falling and falling, and then you try to grab onto things and there's nothing there. But then again, you don't know where the end is. So yeah.
That sounds super intense. What I'm wondering is, you're still here. You're doing pretty good.
Yes.
So that's a big turnaround. Yeah. What was it that? How did you find the strength to carry on? Because the way you're describing it right now, it almost sounds like the end of the story again.
Yeah. It's different things actually, and one of the things is the people around you, and also it's realizing that you have impact on not just your own life but other people's lives as well. So every little thing I did, such as trying to commit suicide and going out on the streets with a bottle of wine, didn't just affect me but also my mother and my sister, and seeing that made me realize that there is a bigger picture to it. It's not just about me.
Okay.
So that's one thing. And then another thing was, it wasn't a specific event, but it was a realization that it is me, basically, who's doing all those things. It is my actions. So what I put in, I get back. And it was the whole facing the fact that I was being self-destructive.
What made you face that fact?
Interesting question. I think it is other people.
Other people made you face that fact?
Definitely.
How did that happen?
They were definitely my mirrors. I think it was when I was in the hospital when I committed suicide. I was brought by an ambulance to the hospital, and then I was lying there, and my mom and my sister actually found me. And it was interesting because at one point I was so drugged up by the alcohol and the pills I had taken. I was just rambling. I didn't even know what I was saying, just rambling. And my mom and my sister were there, and I was fuzzy. I couldn't remember a lot, but there were nurses doing all these things. And then at one point, this doctor, he runs into the room, and there was this fear in his eyes, and he said, it's medicine poisoning, which can mean a lot of things, because you can actually die from medicine poisoning, but it can also mess up your body. But there was this, it wasn't even what he said, it was this fear in his eyes that made me realize, this is it. This is the real deal. And then I got scared, so I felt this fear coming up, and it made me realize that I wasn't ready. Because if I was ready, I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't give a shit. Can I say that?
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. That's super interesting. So for you, one of the biggest turning points was discovering that you still cared.
Yeah.
Because you thought you didn't care anymore.
Yeah. That's
and
right.
Then when you went that close to the edge, you almost tipped over the edge, but somewhere there, you discovered that you still do care.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I hear you saying that a part of you caring is not about yourself, but also about the people in your life, because you are in their life as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can tell me a little bit more about that, because the question that still lies with me is, you lost your job, the only thing that still made you feel normal, and you were still depressed. It wasn't like that was over. And you are in a situation that you got like sent back to start living back with your mom. You had high debts, didn't have a degree, so your options were few. And still you found the strength to reclaim yourself. Well, what was the making of that?
It was one step at a time, because even when I came from the hospital, I thought, okay, so I can do it again. I can try it
That's
again.
what you
Yeah.
thought.
I have two options. I can either try it again and succeed, because I didn't really succeed when I did it. Or I can see what else is out there. I chose the other one. And I know you want to know why, but there's so no.
No. I know making that choice is beautiful, but you stuck with that choice.
I stuck with it.
Because it wasn't easy, I can imagine.
No, it's one step at a time.
This one step at a time?
One step.
And what was the most important step in that?
It was, I think a huge factor was that I didn't have confidence in myself.
Okay.
So I tried my whole life to pretend that I was invisible. But just pretending that you're invisible doesn't mean you are invisible and that you don't exist. Doesn't make sense. You still have a place in this world. So making myself invisible. And as a child, I didn't speak. I didn't communicate with anybody. I never learned how to share anything or to be social or whatever. I didn't know how to do it. Okay. So I was alone a lot, playing in my room alone, and nobody really paid attention to me. My parents had their own problems, so that wasn't going to happen. So I didn't have this belief of self-worth and this confidence and that I could do anything and that I would succeed in life. I didn't have it. But what I did have is curiosity.
Okay.
And also the fact that everybody around me, they went to university, they did all those things, they were smart, they were like, everybody had a life except for me. And I was like, that's not okay. Everybody has a life. So the first thing I did is imagine what I would like to do. And I always said to my mom when I was a little girl, I said, I want to go to university one day. No one in my family has gone to university.
Okay.
And that meant that I had to have a plan. So I worked because my parents weren't going to pay for anything until I had enough money. And then I did this I was 23, 21 plus exam. And then after the exam, I thought, fuck this shit. Forget about it. Go to work. No high school degree. This fucked up. And then I got the results and it said I had 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, that was the first, I cried, I remember. Because I actually thought, I can do this. Like I even have it now, the realization that I can actually do something. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I'm just going to try university for 1 year. And if I fail, there's always this voice which said to me, what if you're going to fail? So I thought if I fail, I failed, but I can at least try. And then the first year, I got all 8s out of 10s. And then going to the second year and the third year. So step by step, you're building your confidence. That's the thing. It just doesn't come to you all of a sudden. It's just like, what do I need to do? Just do it. That's it. Yeah.
So, just to reflect, what I hear you saying is, you came from a childhood where you wanted to be invisible, till you reached the point that you decided to erase yourself and then kind of failed, and then you had two options and you chose for curiosity. You were still curious enough to try it out there.
Yeah.
And then you went back to your childhood dream of going to university.
Yeah.
And you started building your confidence step by step. And this, what I kind of hear is like, when you lost that job, you kind of lost the only thing that kind of gave you confidence.
Yes.
Because it was the happy moments in life, this depression, but at the same time it made you feel normal, and that kind of gave you confidence, and you started rebuilding that. That's true for you. This whole.
Yeah, it is. I think the eagerness to have happy moments, because I didn't have any anymore. So maybe it's the eagerness of having the happy moments back in my life, trying to find them, but then going in survival mode because it's the only thing you have and makes you happy. Just building all those happy moments.
What is the survival mode you talk about for you?
Well, the survival mode is
for you.
It's like it's the fight to stay alive. It's not a happy fight. It's just I need to stay alive. I need to survive. So I need to do this and I need to do that. I need to do that. And at one point it becomes too much. But I guess in that period of my life it was necessary. Also because no one was going to do anything for me. I didn't have anybody to do anything or to give me anything or to offer me anything. So basically you have yourself. Yeah. So you have to fight if you want something. So it was always fighting.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you fought a good fight, I'd say.
Yes.
Wouldn't you?
Yes.
This question I'm going to ask you now is almost one-on-one related with a play I saw you recently do. The Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is something you wrote and you're performing at the moment.
Yeah, it's called Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde, and it's based on
Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for that. That's good. And I saw the play. It was really interesting. It was a great performance, and a lot of interesting stories come to play. It's a mix of, for me, fun stuff, but it's a lot of sad stuff in it.
Yeah.
What is it that, if you look back at this passage that you went through to the point you're now, had some lesson or something you would try to, if you could jump into a time machine and go back and be like, hey, I'm Raksha from the future, what would be an advice or lesson that you would like to give to yourself?
I would like to tell myself, and that is what I'm trying to do with everything I do right now, actually. I would try to tell myself that anything is possible, that you can do anything. But sometimes you need a little push, or you need some inspiration or some motivation, but you can do, if you set your mind to it, you can do absolutely anything. And back then, I didn't really, nobody ever told me. How's that possible? I don't know, but nobody told me that was possible. I didn't have any role models or, I didn't know.
Do you think it would land if you would tell yourself anything is possible?
I think that if I had a role model, if I had someone to look up to, and yes, definitely, yeah.
So somebody's going through the same situations that you've gone through, that's what you would share with them as well.
Yeah, and that is all you. That you decide what happens, and you decide how you create your life, and it's all you. And nobody ever told me that, and I didn't even know until somebody told me, and I was like, it is so stupid that I've never thought of this before, but it is absolutely true. I just thought you fall into society, and that is your place.
That certain things are set in stone.
That's it. Like how you see all the statistics, like families with a low socioeconomic status and the children that are raised, they all follow the same pattern. That's what the statistics say. They never go to university, or they stay in the same social circle, basically, in the environment. And they don't see the role models. They don't see that you can actually go further than that. So I was locked in that social environment, totally. But you don't have to be. No way.
I think, I don't know, the only thing I have trouble with is like having a role model is one thing, but you put in a lot of hard work.
Yeah, but you have to. You have to try, because you have to try. Those are the other worlds as well. You can step into. It's not just your world, but you have to try and figure out who you are, I guess. And that's what I've been. So after I committed suicide, I was like, okay, let's do this. I don't know how. Like, please, somebody tell me how and give me like 3 steps I can do. But it doesn't work like that. You have to actually figure it out yourself. So I tried it for 10 years. I've been trying to do different things. So going to university, seeing what does that refill. Then going to design, writing, making video clips, doing modeling work. Like, where am I basically in this world? And then I got into acting.
Okay.
And that was the liberation. That helped me so much. And the first day, I remember this voice in my head saying, I'm happy. That was the first acting workshop I did. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Because I could allow everything to come out.
So the girl who had trouble expressing herself and would sit by herself in a room found joy in sharing all that there was inside of her.
Total shift. That was a total shift. But then you have to spend, like, for some people it takes 1 year, 2 years. For me it was 10 years to figure out what is that thing, what is your channel, basically. So yeah.
Okay. And I still wonder, where did you find the motivation to put in all this work?
It is
Because I haven't met you before you started acting. I know you as a person who is acting and is choosing to go full throttle on expanding your acting career, and I see you making steps, and I'm like, okay, this is a person with dedication and motivation. But the story you just told me started with a person who threw in the towel.
Yeah.
I don't know that person.
Yeah.
But it's a big shift from throwing in the towel to stepping into the ring again and again, like you've been doing in London recently by boxing even.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I understand it's a step-by-step thing.
Yeah, but it's...
But what was the shift?
There's a specific situation, but the thing is, so when I look back, I can hardly believe that little girl was me.
Wow.
And that's the thing. I feel like spending all those years trying invisible made me... I didn't know who I was. So who is me? So who am I? And I'm so curious to find out I feel like I'm so much more than I am, and I feel like I can give so much more than I am. But at the same time, I want to... It's this motivation to excel.
Okay.
It's this drive to excel all the time, and then eventually, yeah. I cannot explain it.
I hear a lot about being curious about yourself.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think this whole path you've been taking is about exploring yourself,
Yes, definitely.
getting to know yourself. And the stuff I was reading this year mostly was about you accepting a challenge. You have accepted a certain challenge. And I read it a couple of times. Challenge accepted, challenge accepted. I'm like, wow, you're choosing to step into a realm that is challenging for you.
Yeah.
And taking that to the future. So what is this change, this challenge that you are driving towards? Could you tell us a little bit about the future?
Is it the one my dad? Or is it yeah.
Also, I don't know, it feels like it's framed in a bigger thing. You're letting out bits and pieces on your Instagram.
Well, the thing which I love about I feel like because I never had a role model doesn't mean I cannot be a role model. So I feel like everything I've experienced is painful. But it's not just me. There are a lot of people who are experiencing pain. So why not share with each other? And that's what acting taught me a lot. Just share with each other. So you don't feel alone. Yeah, for the upcoming year at least. So my ambitions always lie with acting.
Okay.
But exploration of myself is to... I use play. It's to play more, actually, because sometimes I feel like I have the tendency to control things which don't need to be controlled. And I guess it comes from the survival mechanism.
Okay.
And being afraid of falling into the unknown, which is basically okay.
Okay. If you say so.
Yes. So I'm gonna focus a lot on relationships between intimacy and sexuality and sex, and what does it mean to me, what does it mean to other people. I think there's a lot there we can all relate to. And also my relationship with men. My show, Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde, is basically about addiction, and specifically sex addiction, and my relationship with men, and also my dad, who struggles with addiction, which created this enormous gap, not only between me and my dad, but also with men in my life.
Okay.
So I think it's time to handle that.
And then when you say it's time to handle that, I sense that there's, as you're sharing all of this, as you're creating all of this and exploring all of this, there's something you're looking for yourself. What is that? What is it you hope to find?
Love. I guess I think it's I think it's a deeper level of intimacy. Yeah, that's it, basically. Within relationships, if it's partner relationships or a relationship with men or women, there's this deeper level of intimacy. I'm just so ready to explore and to and to find out what works for me, basically. What kind of form of relationship works for me. There's so much going on nowadays. Like, there's so many forms, but you can read about it, you can study it, but basically you just have to go into it to see what works for you. Yeah, it's true. So what actually works for me, not having the feeling that I have to fit into a specific form, but just to figure it out. And what makes me feel free at the same time, there's this thing about freedom and intimacy, and I always feel like you have to choose between freedom and intimacy.
Wow.
But
between freedom and intimacy.
I always feel like intimacy is a relationship, but I feel like sometimes you have to give up a certain amount of freedom for that intimacy.
Okay.
So why can't you have both? In which you find very comfortable with. And how does that work? Does it even exist? Is there a relationship in which you have intimacy and freedom? That's what I want to explore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your honesty.
Thank you.
For sharing so much about yourself. If you guys liked what Raksha was talking about, check out her website, rakshahost.com.
Yes.
Her Instagram, Raksha Host. Everything is Raksha Host, right?
Everything is
Raksha is Raksha.
Perfect.
Host is Hoost. And if you want to hear more about what she's going to do in the future, let me know, then we'll ask her out on the show again. Because I'm curious, but for this episode, I think we did a great job discovering that Raksha is curious about love nowadays.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Raksha.
Thank you.
Cheers. Awesome. Brassa, ik heb een goede intro opnieuw opgenomen.
Yeah.
Thank you.